Thank you so much for everyone for coming. This is actually my first time in Tampa. The first dish I'm going to cook for you is one that really is involved in how I became an American citizen, which is what my first book is all about. So about 8 years ago, my mother died of leukemia, foul disease, and the business I started running was failing. You know, a lot of problems with the economy, as everybody remembers. And so I got into a very dark place, and one night I was going to jump from the balcony of my apartment, and I was lucky that the people in the apartment below me were Middle Eastern. They were from Lebanon. They started cooking, and the smells were so wonderful that I always say, I say in my first book, I got more hungry than suicidal, which is probably how I've described myself ever since. And I actually went to cook this dish from our family, and I wanted to share it with you today. And this dish we call life-saving dal. So while these lentils are toasting, I'm just going to start cooking up, and I've just put a little canola oil in here. You could use vegetable oil. Never use olive oil when you're cooking in your food. It just overpowers it. It has too low a burning point and too much flavor. So I'm just going to flavor this up with a little bit of clove. We're going to add the Holy Trinity, almost like a sofrito for Indian food. Chili, ginger, garlic, and we're going to add that in. But first of all, a whole pile of onions. So now we've added the chili. I use my nose a lot, because that's how I can tell if something goes from being, a raw smell, and then you get this sweetness of it. Oh, I love this, absolutely love this. Ground coriander. I use this a lot. I actually add a little bit of coriander and cumin into my chocolate cake, which is quite interesting. Gives it really beautiful savory flavor. These are those warm spices that you get from North Africa. They originated. Ground ginger, and again, I add that in because it adds warmth, but it doesn't add heat, it doesn't add fire, and I love ginger in everything. And now what we've created here is what I call my curry jam. And I actually make up a huge amount of this, and I freeze it in bags. So then if I'm ever going to make something quickly, I start with this. And if you add tomatoes to it, you can take it in one direction. If you add yogurt to it, you can take it in another direction. But today, we're going to cook this down, and you can already see that the oils are beginning to come out of the spices, and that's when you can tell that they're cooked. And this is a beautiful vegetable stock that they make in-house here. But we're going to add a secret ingredient. We're going to add lemons. And we're actually going to cook the lemon in the dal. Now, I've never seen this anywhere before, even in other families in Calcutta, where my father's from. So I'm not quite sure where it came from, but it's now become so much part of our family tradition that if I did it without it, I'd probably be drummed out of the family. When you get one of those pieces of lemon, that's considered very, very lucky. So you're all going to get a piece in there, and what you have to do is pick it up and really suck on it. And what you'll find is all the spices have cooked into it. Sometimes you can use whole spices, as I did in the beginning, and that's just going to add a more subtle flavor to the oil. And that is the dish that saved my life. That's called life-saving dal. The dish that I'm about to make for you are two of the most requested dishes I ever make. So I'm just going to get some chicken out, and we're not going to put a lot of spices in this. We are going to put a few things, but in this sauce we're going to use almond flour. We're going to add in a little bit more of turmeric for the color. You'll see that what happens is once you've added in this boiling water, it's going to bring out all of the oils of those almonds, and that's what's going to thicken the sauce in the end. This was a royal dish, and originally the dish was meant to be as white as possible. And you want to make sure that the chicken is cooked before the sauce goes in. Now we're going to serve this up to you with some really delicious naan bread. I have to say, I gave my recipe for naan bread to the people in the kitchen, and they have done a better job with the naan bread than any Indian restaurant I've ever been to. And this is actually a dish that benefits from being cooked earlier and then rewarmed, because the thickness just carries on coming out of those oils. Take the spoon out. We're just going to let that sauce thicken up over a gentle heat. We made the naan bread. So what I like to do when I'm at home and I have my burner and I have access to the phone in case I need to call the fire department, is I like to just hold it over a flame. Actually really fun if you've got kind of people over for dinner, just to show them a bit of theatre. That's a great way to cook naan bread if you've got a bit of courage, a bit of time, and good access to the fire department. I decided I was going to set off around the United States and find out what it meant to become an American, and that was the beginning of my book, Fed White and Blue. At the end of the journey that was Fed White and Blue, I actually did become an American citizen. So we're going to make some dessert. Another classic Indian dessert called gulab jamun. Who's ever heard gulab jamun? It's actually made out of an unusual combination of ingredients, and the first one is milk powder. and then about a 1/4 cup of semolina flour, and I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of baking powder. So we're going to add in a little bit of yogurt, and that works with the baking powder and really helps this to fluff up. And what you'll find is after about 10 minutes of leaving it, and I obviously don't have that now, it actually comes out to be quite a solid dough. You could put nutmeg into it, you could put all kinds of flavors into this. And so we've got them with a little vanilla ice cream, some pistachios dripped over the top of them, and some fresh mint. But this guy worked his backside off. Did everyone there. He helped me get everything. He's helped me prep everything. I can tell you in all of the demos I've done, I've never had anyone who's been as accommodating and as helpful and as just as skilled as Max, and I absolutely adore him. And I think the most important thing in any cook's life, I'm sure Max will agree, is that we're only happy if we've fed you well and you leave happy. So we hope that, and cheers. Thank you so much.